Who am I? The five forces that shape our lives.
The question, who am I, is one of the most profound inquiries a human mind can contemplate. This is without question a vast subject. Scholars, theologians, scientists, philosophers, and mystics have dedicated entire lifetimes to exploring what shapes a human life, each through their own lens. And the conversation still continues. I want to offer a different perspective, not drawn from any formal field of expertise, but from personal reflections and insights. I believe our lives are shaped by five key influences that define who we are. I make no claims to have solved what the greatest minds have only deepened. What I have done here is to bring all these thoughts into one place, not to dissect each in academic depth, but to reveal a pattern beneath them all, to help you see, perhaps for the very first time, how these influences work together, often invisibly, but quietly, to powerfully shape the person you are becoming. The five influences that shape our lives: the divine, the soul, our DNA, the planets, and the mind body interactions with our environment. Initially, these claims might provoke controversial thoughts within you. I urge you to be patient. I will support my claims with evidence based examples presented by world renowned experts in their respective fields. The divine, the belief that a higher power influences human life, can be found in nearly every civilization throughout history, pointing to something deeply rooted in the human experience. Across different religions and belief systems, most spiritual traditions recognize some form of higher power, whether called God, the Almighty, the Divine, or another name. It is my firm belief that this divine presence serves as a fundamental force in shaping our lives.
Near-death experiences. Across many cultures and religions, people who have been clinically dead and revived report remarkably similar experiences. A sense of unconditional love, a life review, and a feeling of being sent back with a purpose. Dr. Raymond Moody's landmark research highlights these claims.
My name is Raymond Moody, and I'm a former philosophy professor and medical doctor, forensic psychiatrist. And since 1962, I have been studying cases of people who almost died and returned and had what we today call near-death experiences. And I've also learned that there's nothing to fear in death. Really, it's a transition into some other world. These experiences seem the same all over the world. Wherever I've traveled, I hear the same things from people. I've also learned that at the point of death, we get to engage in a fascinating holographic panoramic review, during which we review all the things we've ever done while we're alive from the point of view of those with whom we've interacted. People say that with the review of their life, they often review their lives in the company of a being of light and of complete love and compassion, who sees everything you've ever done in this panorama of your life and yet still loves you. People I know who've returned from death say that it was the most wonderful experiences of their life. And I would say to people, there's nothing to fear in death, that the fearful things are here in this life. I was not raised in a religious environment when I was a little kid, and the idea of an afterlife just never occurred to me. I always assumed that when you die, it's the end. And so it's been a long process for me to come to terms with the fact, as I gather, that when we die, we do go into this other state of existence. So now I'm confident, actually, that what we call death is a transition into another world.
Dr. Pim van Lommel is famous for his cardiac arrest studies over many years. He found that patients described experiences that defied neurological explanations, pointing many toward a belief in a conscious divine presence that governs the arc of a life. Grace and turning points. Countless individuals from St. Augustine to the 20th century philosopher Simone Weil, describe moments of sudden, unearned transformation that they could not attribute to willpower or circumstance. These grace moments arrive uninvited, reshaping a person's entire trajectory. Such experiences, reported across Hindu, Christian, Sufi, and Buddhist traditions alike, suggest an intelligent force behind the self that intervenes in human lives. Miracles of the Catholic faith. There is a plethora of documented evidence of miracles in the Catholic faith.
In 1917, there was the famous miracle of the sun. 3 children had been predicting the appearance of a woman that they identified as the Virgin Mary. They said that on October 13, 1917, a miracle would occur so that people would believe. The miracle was witnessed by an estimated 70,000 people, including secular journalists, and even today remains one of the most widely attested public miracles of the 20th century. Dr. Michael Egnaw, a neurosurgeon, has conducted over 7,000 brain operations. Consequently, he asked a profound question: is the brain the complete source of the human mind? He noted that people have survived with large portions of their brain missing. Split brain patients can integrate information that neither hemisphere received completely. Brain stimulation can produce movements, emotions, and memories, but not reason, abstract thought, or a sense of I. Dr. Egnaw pondered, perhaps the brain enables the mind, but does not completely explain it. The human being may be a unique combination of matter and spirit. Our body gives us movement, senses, memory, and emotions. Our spiritual nature gives us intellect, reason, free will, and love. The soul is truly non-material. Perhaps it cannot simply die in the way the body dies. So the question is, am I merely my brain and my body? Or is there something within me that transcends them? Sanskaras from past lives. While this is a subject of enduring debate, we can conclude that the soul is eternal. When the physical body dies, the soul continues its journey, taking on a new form. Some traditions maintain that this cycle is limited to human rebirth, while others extend it to all living beings. Without delving into that distinction, what is most significant is what the soul carries forward. In Sanskrit, sanskaras refer to deep and enduring impressions left on the soul, traces that persist across lifetimes and influences our nature even before life begins. These subtle imprints quietly yet profoundly shape who we are.
Children who remember past lives. Dr. Ian Stevenson of the University of Virginia spent 40 years documenting over 3,000 cases of children, primarily between the ages of 2 and 5, who describe detailed, verifiable memories of previous lives. In many cases, children identified their former families, described how they died, and had birthmarks corresponding to wounds from their stated past life. These cases, particularly in India, Sri Lanka, and Lebanon, are among the most rigorous scientific investigations ever conducted into reincarnation and sanskaric carryover. Prodigies and inexplicable gifts. Mozart composed his first minuets at age 5. Sakuntala Devi solved complex mathematical equations mentally faster than a computer. These individuals display mastery that far exceeds what their current life experience can account for.
From the Vedantic perspective, these gifts are sanskaras, the residue of thousands of hours of practice and devotion from previous incarnation, carried forward by the soul as its accumulated merits. Our DNA, our genetic inheritance from our immediate parents and the generations before them is another defining influence. Our biology, temperament, and predisposition are all in part a legacy passed down through our lineage. Modern genetics has confirmed what ancient wisdom traditions long suspected. We are in profound ways living letters written by our ancestors. Behavioral genetics, the famous Minnesota twin study, Jim Lewis and Jerry Springer, Researchers followed these identical twins who were separated at birth and raised in completely different environments. They discovered startling similarities in career choices, humor, phobias, and even the names that they gave their children. This demonstrates that our DNA does not merely shape our bodies, it predisposes our personalities, our tendencies, and even our joys and fears.
Epigenetics and ancestral trauma. Groundbreaking research at the Mount Sinai Hospital showed that traumatic experiences can be chemically encoded into DNA and passed down generations.
What has your grandparents got to do with your decision?
Dr. Chopra comes at this as a doctor, as a scientist, given us so much to think about.
Everything that's happening in the body at a biological cell level. And then we're looking at what is called the epigenome, which is the shell of proteins outside the genome, and how these work together. And what we are finding is remarkable. You know, in the beginning, nobody would believe us, but now we have collaborations with Harvard, UCSF, UCSD, Scripps, with digital technology, with Duke University, with Mount Sinai. We can look at a blood sample, and we can tell you if you're experiencing samadhi occasionally or not, if your mind is quiet or not, if you're falling into the place where he
even whether our parents experience this.
Parents too. In fact, the epigenetic shows that your experiences now, which are not in your brain, by the way. Everybody says, my experiences in my brain. It's not in your brain. Your experiences are not in your body. Your experiences are in a non-local consciousness, which is not in space-time. In Hawaii, they have these temples and cow farms. If a cow has been zapped electrically, the next generation of cows will not go to the fence. They already know it's electrical and they might get shocked. Okay? Then the following generation. Now, people have done experiments right here where you take mice and you have them smell wintergreen, which is a very pleasant smell. Then they get mild electrical shocks. The next 7 generations of mice will be scared by smelling wintergreen. Where is the seat of this personality? Where is it coming from? This is why science opens the window to what people already knew, actually, in our tradition.
Is there some truth to the conclusion that our DNA has something to do with how we make decisions? Here is a verified story that is indeed mind-boggling.
There are certain unexplained phenomena that occur between twins that even modern science simply can't explain. Take the curious case of 7-year-old identical twins Kaylee and Allie from Pennsylvania. They were born just seconds apart and are inseparable, like so many identical twins. The sisters were at a playground. Kaylee was on the trampoline and got hit in the face, suffering a painful black eye.
Her heel hit right here in the eye.
Allie was playing in another area, totally uninjured, but inexplicably, her eye started showing signs of bruising in the exact same place.
My goodness.
Their mother rushed the twins to a nurse who noticed it too. When she got home, she thought it was so strange, she picked up a camera to record it.
Did you get hit by anything?
No.
Does it hurt?
No.
Did one sister telepathically transfer her injury to her twin, or was it just a coincidence?
Planetary influences. The idea that celestial bodies influence earthly life is one of the oldest and most cross-cultural beliefs in human history. And it sits at the intersection of the mystical and the measurably physical. Consider the word lunatic, derived from luna, the moon, a term that arose from observations that individuals with mental instability often experienced heightened episodes during a full moon.
The moon's gravitational pull moves entire oceans. Thus, it is not a stretch to consider its effect on the human body, which is approximately 60% water. Studies have linked the lunar cycle to menstrual rhythms, sleep quality, and even hospital admission rates. A 2013 University of Basel study found that people sleep 20 minutes less around a full moon. In Vedic and Western astrology, roughly every 29.5 years, Saturn completes its orbit and returns to where it was at your birth. It is associated with major life reckonings such as career shifts, relationship endings, identity crises, and maturation. Anecdotally and culturally, the ages of 29 to 30 and 58 to 60 are widely recognized as turning points. Astrological predictions. Carl Jung himself noted that his patients' most significant psychological crises clustered around these ages, without knowing the astrological basis for it.
Nostradamus' prophecies. In 1555, the famous astrologer Nostradamus published prophecies that believers have since linked to the French Revolution, Hitler, and 9/11. Predictions his followers say were cast centuries in advance from reading the stars. Modern day astrology. In 2019, teenage Vedic astrologer Abhigya Anand warned of severe danger to the world from 2019 to April 2020, months before COVID-19 emerged. A forecast his followers still cite as proof that the planets speak. Mind-body interactions with our environment. No human being is an island. The soil we are planted in, our family, our culture, economy, geography, and era shape the person we become as powerfully as any internal force. We are constantly shaped by our engagement with the world around us, nature, other human beings, and all living creatures. Mental stress and diseases are classic examples of how our mind and body are affected by the environment. The way our mind and body responds to and interact with our environment is an ongoing and ever-evolving influence on who we are.
Adverse Childhood Experiences, ACEs. The landmark ACE study conducted by the CDC and Kaiser Permanente followed over 17,000 people and found a direct dose-response relationship between childhood trauma such as abuse, neglect, household dysfunction, and adult outcomes in health, addiction, criminality, and life expectancy. A child born with identical DNA and soul potential placed in a violent versus a nurturing environment will emerge as measurably different human being. The environment is not background noise. It is a sculptor. The Flynn effect. Rising IQ scores. James Robert Flynn discovered that average IQ scores across the world have risen significantly over the 20th century, too fast to be explained by genetics. The cause: better nutrition, wider access to education, exposure to abstract thinking through media, and reduced disease burden.
Let's recap. The 5 influences are the divine, the soul, the DNA, the planets, and our interactions. Bringing it all together, these 5 pillars are not competing explanations. They are interwoven threads. Your DNA arrives pre-shaped by ancestral sanskaras. Your planetary chart describes the impact of the celestial bodies you were born into, and the divine operates through all 4 of the others. Since the universe of influences on human life extends far beyond the 5 pillars, it is also worth acknowledging what this presentation has not covered. There are entire realms that we have only touched the surface of and left aside entirely. The paranormal and its documented phenomena, hypnosis and the extraordinary power of the subconscious mind, extrasensory perception and remote viewing, which have been the subject of serious scientific inquiry, the role of dreams and altered states, the influence of sound and vibration on human consciousness, and more. Each of these deserves its own exploration, and perhaps that is a conversation for another day. To ask who am I is to recognize that you are both the product and, through awareness and free will, to a high degree, their master. Your successes belong to many, seen and unseen, and perhaps this is the most profound realization of all. The victories you have achieved, the gifts you carry, the person you have becoming, these are not entirely your own doing. They are the fruits of forces that began long before you were born and that continue to work through you in ways you may not yet fully see. The divine, the soul, the ancestors, the cosmos, and the world around you have all had a hand in making you who you are. Now that you have an understanding of how you came to be who you are, what next?
Well, of the 5 influences we discussed, You only have control over one, that is, the mind-body interactions with the world around you. Not the divine, nor the soul, nor your DNA, and certainly not over celestial bodies.
As we discussed, your soul and the associated sanskaras has an important role in shaping your present life. Similarly, your actions in this life, the good, bad, and the ugly, will become the sanskaras as your soul journeys to your next life. Caution, pay attention to how you live your present life.
Another important takeaway: be patient with others. They too were shaped by forces beyond their control. When someone falls short, struggles, or sees the world differently, consider that their DNA, their childhood, their soul's accumulated journey, and the environment that formed them may have made certain things genuinely difficult, not through lack of effort or will, but through the invisible architecture of forces they never chose. Extend to others the same grace you now extend to yourself.
Closing takeaways. Now, what do you do with that awareness? How you decide, how you negotiate, and how you engage with the world is where your story truly begins. Knowing yourself is the beginning, not the destination.
Self-awareness opens the door. I hope you gained some new insights from this video. Now, who am I? Just Google my name.
I invite you to take this free 30-second decision challenge. It's a real eye-opener, just 30 seconds.